Hello, and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. Today's podcast number 1651. The topic is nutrition, and the title is Using Food Variety Correctly. So I was talking with one of my clients this week. This client and I, we do weekly Zoom consultations, so we just kind of touch base every week, talk about how everything's going. Then between there, we shoot emails back and forth or use their journal document online and answer any questions and whatnot. But we were talking this week, the client is going to start towards competing in a figure competition. So they've come from a history of under-eating, like a disordered eating, under-eating, and like over-exercising. Like they were running too much, weren't eating enough food, always struggled with feeling like crappy, kind of skinny fat feeling. They just never really liked anything about the way they felt and the way they looked. And we started kind of working together to try to correct the eating and to get into some weight training to strengthen their joints and just make them feel a lot better. Now they are excited, super fired up, and they want to do a figure competition. And I'm like, that's awesome. Absolutely, absolutely love it. Now, some of the things is this person is very mentally tough. Whenever they decide to do something, they will do it regardless of how miserable the experience might be. So that was something I want to protect them from. So we talked that their goal of doing a figure competition, and if they want to do well within placings, that can take a while because they're coming from a period, like a time of under eating, which unfortunately means that they have very little muscle tissue and they still have body fat that they want to lose. So the next 6 months, we're going to take time to bring down the body fat in a healthy way to maintain proper hormones, make sure she still has a period and she's still healthy in that way. But we want to reduce body fat while trying to rebuild the body's ability to build muscle tissue. And what I mean by this is we're going to take 6 months to get her leaner, but she's not going to be able to get significantly bigger muscles. When somebody comes from being chronically underfed, you can't just jack up their calories a bunch because their body will store more of it as fat than actual muscle tissue. So you would think, okay, if they're coming from being underfed, this is the perfect time. Just feed them a whole bunch and they're going to grow like a weed. No, they'll get fat. So you have to actually recover and heal the metabolism, like heal the body, before you can then start pushing more calories in and wanting it to actually convert over to muscle tissue. So we're going to spend 6 months getting her leaner, trying to build what muscle we can, but trying to get leaner. And then we're going to do a practice show. So we're going to do a competition, but we're not going to count it as like the competition. So we're going to do one because it's going to take another 6 months after that to build up the muscle tissue for like when she would be able to really look good, place well, and that would be the one she'd want to like put her emotions into, if that makes sense. So since it would take 12 months for her to fully look the way that I think she would want to look on stage, and we talked about, the looks that we'd expect and stuff. So it's going to take 12 months. That's a long, long time. So I was like, why don't we break that down? Why don't we do a show in 6 months? You're going to get all the experience of that show. Like, we'll get a suit, we'll go through the tanning process, you'll get to understand what it's like to be at the show, how to eat, like, going into, like, the week of the show, how to eat on the day of the show, what does it feel like to be at a show, when do you pose, when do you, go out on stage, what do you do when you're backstage. So I was like, let's get all that experience. And let's aim for 1 in 6 months. That can be super motivating because we break down each month into 2 14-day sections. So I was like, that's 12 sections that we're going to adjust. And we're going to be like, we're going to do it for something for 14 days, make some adjustments, see what it looks like. Do it another 14 days, make some adjustments, see what it looks like. And very quickly, 12 of those will go. So that's going to give her what it'll feel like a short enough time frame that there's need to be attentive to everything you're doing right now. So that's going to give some pressure and motivation that what she does every day matters. If you think about something that's 12 months away, it's like, what is today's meal? Like, whether I skip lunch or not, does that really matter? So we're giving a short enough time frame that there's motivation to it and some kind of pressure, but not overwhelming. We're not trying to get ready for a show in 4 weeks, you know. So we talked about how that's going to help her a lot mentally and emotionally. And then part of what we also talked about was food variety. She is capable of eating the same thing every day. She can do it mentally. But although that helps in adherence, because she's like, I want to crush it, I want to do so well, I just want to eat the same thing every day, tell me exactly what to eat. I'm like, it's not going to work. Not going to work for 6 months and then another 6 months. So can she do it? Yes. Is it going to be absolutely miserable? Yes. Could it lead to burnout? Absolutely. It 100% will. So instead of trying to eat the same thing every day, we want to have some variety. But you don't want to have so much variety that you lose track of actually what you're doing, because you're trying to track all these different things, and who knows if you're tracking them right, and then all of a sudden you lost track of what's even best. Now you're eating a bunch of like weird substitute diety foods rather than just eating what you should be eating. So you lose track of what's best when you had too much variety, and it starts down this like slippery slope of undoing your diet, because you start to add this little thing in, that little thing in, then all of a sudden you're nowhere close to what it was. So we want enough food variety that we don't feel burnt out, we don't feel stuck, we don't feel limited, we don't just feel oppressed by this diet. We want to still feel like we're enjoying the process, but we don't want so much variety that we're not making progress. So we talked about the idea of having options per meal, maybe 2 to 3 options per meal, and then have like emergency meals. What do you do when life craps the bed and you got to just make up a meal like instantly? So I gave an example of how I kind of structure my wife's food. So to make it easier for her, she has competed before. She's competed and actually won a bodybuilding show. She is a CrossFit coached for years up at like really high level CrossFit gyms in Charlotte. She's a Olympic weightlifting and certified in Denver, Colorado, like I guess like in the Olympic training center. So she knows what the hell she's doing, very much so. But it helps her for me to kind of manage some of the food every day for both of us. So I make the food for us in the mornings. I help kind of portion things out and keep us both on track. So she could certainly do it. She's very intelligent. She has enough willpower, and she could do it if she wanted to. But it's my way of helping. So one of her love languages is acts of service. So that's a way in which I can show love for her, is to make food for her every day and kind of just make it a little bit easier. So what we do for her options for breakfast is she has to have everything gluten-free, and she has a very, very, very severe case of celiac disease. So everything has to be gluten-free, which is actually kind of works out well, because a lot of gluten-free items are really high in protein. So for example, we use Banza pasta, which is a chickpea pasta, which is actually really high in protein. Even her like brown rice pasta, which is we use a brand called Jovial, Jovial. That's really high in protein as well. So it actually kind of works. Like some of her traditional carb items are actually higher in protein. So it actually adds, it makes it easier for her to have a higher protein diet. She also benefits from higher fiber content. So I actually do not do well with fiber. I have to keep my fiber down very low, otherwise I get digestive stress. She actually requires higher fiber to make sure her digestive tract is moving well. So it's fun in my world of fun, because I'm a weirdo, but I love having all these little weird nuances, because then it makes it more interesting to meal plan for. So when somebody has like no problems whatsoever with food, that's, to me, it's like, okay, that's boring. So I like having a little bit of like weirdities, oddities to this. But so her breakfast is gluten-free bagel, and we do eggs for protein. So we do 1 whole egg and then like a little bit of egg whites. So that's one option. And then the second option, which is a quicker meal, whereas if she doesn't have time, she's on phone calls and a meeting and whatnot, or I have to run out of the house, like something's happening, we do a Core Power drink, which has 26 grams of protein, and it's a basically a pre-made protein drink. and she can just kind of crack the top off, drink it with cheese sticks. She does 3 cheese sticks. So that's her breakfast options. So we don't leave it endless. It's not like she can have anything and therefore she doesn't know what to eat, because how many times has that happened to all of us? But we know there's 2 options. One is like the one that she really likes, which is the bagel and eggs. But the other one, the Core Power and the cheese sticks, it's something we can always have on hand. It's something she can eat very quickly, and in between other activities. We can grab it on the go if we have to go somewhere really early in the morning. Just makes it super easy. So one is, I cook the food, have to clean dishes and whatnot, but that's like the more enjoyable meal, but it takes more effort. The other one's quick and easy. So those are her options. Then we have lunch. She has the Bonza pasta, which is a chickpea pasta, which is really high in protein. Chop up red and yellow peppers and put a little bit of feta cheese on it, like sprinkles of feta cheese. And then she has an oil dressing that has like some garlic and some other spices that she'll drizzle over that. And she really likes that. That's one of her favorite little meals. And then as a substitute for lunch, if we can't have that one, she has a Core Power and almonds. So we do lean on the Core Powers every now and then, but typically if we have to have a fast breakfast, we can have a calm lunch, or if we have to have a fast lunch, we've had a calm breakfast. So typically we're not going to be doing multiple Core Powers a day, but it's an option if we need it. So the reason why we like those options for lunch is if she's at her office, that Bonza pasta, peppers, feta cheese, and oil doesn't stink like, say, fish, or eggs or something like that. And it can be eaten out of a really small dish that we have, which still hits her calories and her macros. So it's something she can eat at her desk. She can eat with coworkers. It doesn't have any smell to it. So she can sit down and eat it. She can eat it a little bit like while sprinkling in some emails and doing odds and ends. But we also have that Core Power and almonds. The reason why we do the almonds is just a different of flavor and taste and a crunchiness rather than cheese sticks. So it's a little bit more enjoyable, like mouthfeel wise, and the process of eating it during the day. And she can kind of sprinkle them in here and there, and it's higher like fat content because we do half reduced fat cheese sticks. But the almonds have a higher fat content, so they take longer to digest, so they last more into the afternoon for her, so energy-wise. So that's why we do those choices. Then for dinner is the meal that, if she's going to enjoy any of the meals, it's going to be dinner, because breakfast and lunch, she's so busy. And I think we all can relate to this. You're so busy, you're like, just make it easy. I want to eat what's easy. But then at night, you're like, okay, I actually kind of want to taste this one, and I want to enjoy this one. So one of our options is brown rice pasta, which is that jovial pasta. She has a can of tuna. God, good for her. I hate tuna. Ate way too much of it for dieting that I do not eat it voluntarily now. But we'll do tuna with a mixture of mayonnaise. So it's almost like a little bit of a tuna salad mix over brown rice pasta. She loves that. Weirdo. But it's awesome. It's actually, I wish I could love the things she loves. She loves such like good healthy food. It's amazing. Another option is brown rice pasta with low-fat pepperoni, and that's something she'll put like spray butter on, and she said she ate that when she was a child. So it's kind of like a nice, like happy, meal for her. And then another option we have is protein bread with a spread of peanut butter and sliced bananas on top, and she enjoys that as well. And all of those meals, they hit our macros that we need for each meal, and they give her some options. For snacks, we have granola bars. We have a couple of granola bars. They have 10 grams or more of protein, and we have chickpea snacks, which are like dried chickpeas for various flavors and whatnot, and they also have over 10 grams of protein. So we hit our calorie marks and our protein marks, and it gives her a little bit of options and variety per meal, and it matches her kind of needs per meal for being able to eat something fast versus maybe you can sit down and eat it slow. How does it smell like at work? So there's a lot of factors that go into like picking our foods. And then our emergency meals when we're out and about, again, Core Power and almonds. We have those at home, and you can always get those at gas stations, or at least a Quick Trip down here in South Carolina. And then there's also at Quick Trips, they have these little, I can't think of the proper word for it right now, but these packages that have meat and cheese in them. There's a fancy word to it, but It's like cheese with slices of pepperoni and salami. And she'll get that sometimes as well because it's a really good protein content and the fats are slow digesting, so it gives her nice slow energy. But that's the idea, is you have 2 to 3 options per meal, and you plan for being able to have like a normal slow meal versus a really fast meal, and then emergency kind of what do you do in a pinch kind of meals. So you want to have options to provide a sense of choice. So you actually get to choose. That doesn't make you feel as boxed in as like kind of pressured and constrained within the diet. So you want to be able to have choices. But we also know the macros for every meal. So we break her day down, and I encourage all my clients to do this, is think of your day in sections. There's the first 5 to 6 hours of the day. That's 1/3 of the time that you're awake. The second 5 to 6 hours of the day, which is the second 1/3 of being awake. And then a final 5, 6, maybe even 7 hours of being awake, which is the final 1/3 of being awake. So if you break the waking part of the day down into thirds, so the morning third, midday third, and evening third, what you can think of is if I divide my daily calories by 3, my daily protein by 3, I now know how many calories and how many grams of protein I should have per third of the day. What's awesome about this is, let's say we have a crazy day and we're like, okay, we can get a normal breakfast in and we're going to be home to have a normal dinner, but the middle of the day is going to be completely crazy. We don't have to mess with anything in the first third of the day. She's getting her breakfast. We don't have to mess with anything in the final 1/3 of the day. She's getting her dinner. We just have to know, okay, in the middle of the day, we're supposed to hit maybe say 600 calories and maybe say 40 grams of protein. So whether we're at a gas station, whether we stop by a restaurant, whatever we have to do, we just know, let's get to 600 calories, let's get to 40 grams of protein somehow, some way. So we don't have to kind of, what happens often is people will have the breakfast. They eat haphazardly while they're out, and then they also don't know what to do for dinner. So if you don't break your day into thirds, the second you change one thing, you have to recalculate your entire damn day, which is overwhelming and way too much work. So if you break your day into thirds, if you have to adjust one of the thirds, you just keep the other thirds the same. You don't have to recalculate your whole day. You just recalculate that 1/3 of the day. So it's so much easier mentally and emotionally. So much easier. But that's what I would recommend when we talk about using food variety correctly, is you want to have 2 to 3 options per meal, 2 to 3 options per snack, 2 to 3 options per like emergency meal, but that's it. Just make it easy. 2 to 3 options, that's what you're picking from. That's going to help prevent you from going down that slippery slope of substituting too many things and actually losing track of what was actually best. But you're also not going to be like, I'm going to eat the same damn thing every day, and then 3 days in, you're like, I'm tired of eggs. What do I do? So that's how to use food variety correctly. Have some options, but also have some structure to the options as well. Cool. Okay, hopefully that was helpful. Remember, we also do have our one-on-one coaching for nutrition only and training in nutrition, where we write your training programs and your nutrition program. And then the nutrition only is we just help you learn, okay, what are your goals? What's your history? How would we eat to reach your goals? And then we do weekly check-ins and kind of talk together, and you can ask me any questions. It's a really awesome education opportunity. And then we have our live monthly programming service, which is where you get $50 a month. You get brand new programming every 4 weeks. You also get the ability to ask any question you want, which includes setting up and managing nutrition. So you can ask me anything for $50 a month. Pretty awesome. 24/7, write down your questions. I answer them every single week. So we have a lot of a variety of services. You don't have to pay for any of them. You don't have to do any of it. But if you are looking for help, I'm hoping that we're providing a way in which that you can get help in the way that you want. So that's the idea of the services. You can check those out on our website, www.brutalirongym.com. Okay, well, if you have any questions, feedback, suggestions, anything you want to know, just email me at brutalirongym@gmail.com. If you like our podcast, please share it. The more people share it with, the more people can help. That's the whole point of the podcast, is just to help people live their healthiest and happiest life. And then thank you to those who donate to support the podcast. You can donate on our website. There is a high hosting cost every year to get this podcast on all the different platforms and whatnot. So I appreciate the donations. They help go to cover some of that cost. If you want to donate, it's significantly appreciated. Thank you very, very much. Even just $5 a month, $10 a month, Whatever you can give, it's very significant and it absolutely helps. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If you like the information we share in our podcast, you can always find more from us on our social media channels. Find us and follow us. Please follow us under the name Brutal Iron Gym on Instagram and YouTube. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening.